Guys, I'm about ready to deck the case. I'm just getting it all ready. I'll turn it around, the laptop around so I can see if you guys ask some questions or come on board doing this. I'll jump in the picture now. Okay, this is the case. Those are the 4 aluminum filled so we have to go this way because of this right here. Just like that. Power up the Mach 5. I'm sorry I don't have my speaker over here, but I thought it'd be better to keep the speaker way over here because I'm going to be making a lot of noise. Go. Wheel. Took forever to change the sandpaper on it. Huh. The glue. Thank you, Harbor Freight. One deck case. A little bit there. I got this really good, but I'm going to go just a tiny bit more. Let's go back over to my desk. That used to take me hours to do. Or not hours, but a long time before I got my 12-inch disc. What's next? Well, we have our cylinder. It goes on top, put the crank back in, all that stuff. Before we start reassembling, you always want to make sure it's going to fit on there straight. Laptop's getting hot. So, just move the speaker a little bit over here to me. Maybe that's a little too much, sorry. Stand straight up. Let's put this on. What we want to do, make sure when we put this on and look through sunlight, we can't see to the other side. I'm always sticking it up in the light. I'm sticking the case up with the light. I'm sticking the cylinder up into the sunlight and just looking for light through the source. I can tell that's a nice clean fit right there. Here's the 2 spots that have to be patched. Right there, that's a leaker spot right there, and over here, this is a leaker spot. We're on this side. Focus a little better. See right there? See the hole? See the hair blackness right there? That's the other 2 spots that the spacer fixes. This is a 1/8 spacer. Usually I go down to a 16th. Hi, Will. What's up, man? Long time. What did you miss? I filled the studs. They're all filled. And I used the 12-inch disc. I replaced the sandpaper. And I decked this is what I call decking the cylinder. I decked the cylinder and I widened it here. First I used the small inch, this one, on my shop, and I used it and took that out, and then once it was big enough, I took my shop back and turned it like that. And just, I didn't go deep in it because the cylinder only goes in this far, minus the spacer. So I don't really want to give it too much of a thing, but I just want it so when I put this in, these 4 holes are on the case and not off. Like a lot of sloppy ones, you'll see the thing off. What you really want is 2 on and 2 off of the old spacers, or I mean studs. But that's a TS400 right there. So decking means covering the 4 holes. No, decking means that I'm resurfacing the case. This is the deck right here. This is a case deck. This is the cylinder deck. When I say I'm going to deck something, it means I'm either going to reduce it here or I'm going to reduce it here. And the only reason I deck it is to make sure all the studs are completely full and they're underneath the case. So DECKING, decking, like house decks or something like that, a deck of cards. And that's the decking. I'll show you the inside. That's how much it has to be widened. You want to widen the back part first. And you're going to get this to shift the cylinder. If you guys want the exhaust to the front, you have to shift most of it to the rear. If you go ramjet to the front, you can take off less and you can take more off of the front. See how there's more taken off in there than in the front? If you ramjet, you get to take equal amounts off and you're more square. But I'm going to the front because Cody makes me pipes now. Made me a pipe and I could just use that and test it. But this engine is ready to be reassembled. It's ready for the crank and all that. Why did you do that? It's a new case, or are you putting a bigger piston in? I'm building this one. This is a 49 millimeter Stihl TS400 concrete cutting saw. And it's 2 millimeters bigger, but the super advantage of this cylinder is how big the transfers are. This is a Bridgeport transfer to try and save the rings. Right there, it's going to glide on the bridge. But if you calculate how big that transfer is compared to a China doll, it's about double. See, a regular China doll is about half that. That's a China doll. Maybe the other way. That's a China doll right there. And that's how much of an open transfer cylinder this is. This is a huge open cylinder. I haven't cut the squishy. You can always tell one that's not cut because it's got the little dots. And then one that's cut doesn't have the dots. It's all flat. Because I want it to go twice as fast. Well, I don't like going on a motorized bike 20 miles an hour. No, the decking is so you get the right timing on the cylinder. So you get the cylinder. The whole thing about using a spacer is you're repairing the leak here and here, 2 leaks, and you're also getting the piston. When the next one I do, I'll be showing you how to measure a stroke on a piston and cylinder. A really good way to do it on a chainsaw, the arrow always points to the exhaust, and you always want to grease these before you drop them in, because that's really rough. But you want to grease them first. If you drop the cylinder in, it's going to tell you a lot of information if you know what to look for. I'll just get my grease. Just a little 2-stroke green. It's going to tell you things like the skirt length. The skirt is the length of the piston right here. That's the skirt. It's going to tell you how they kind of design the cylinder to the piston. If I drop that in there, if I measure from the height of the intake right there to the bottom of the skirt, that should be my squish value. If the cylinder is correctly made to the cylinder, which a China doll is never. But a lot of chainsaws are correct, which is pretty wild when they are correct. It really helps a lot less changing of the intakes and exhaust and blowdown and all that if the piston matches the cylinder. Yes, pretty much they're all different sizes, and I've done all of them pretty much except for the 660 and the 58 millimeter piston. I'm holding off on the 660 because I'm doing the billet case, and the billet case is going to be a lot slower than a China doll, because the China doll, all I have to do is make this wider right here, check the crank, and that's it. I wash everything out with the acetone now. Look at that. Just to also tell you how good your case holds. You dump, say, I don't know, a couple of things, and that comes through on the other side, that means you got work to do. You got to seal it better. You got to check it in the light and all that. All I'm doing is just getting out I'm going to dump this out. I'm just getting out the debris. Just washing the debris out. Okay. Let's split open the case. And I don't tighten my bolts all the way down because I'm making room for the space, the gasket. But yes, I didn't want those drops coming through. That tells me I'm going to have to tighten up that a lot tighter. Just find my tools and I'll take it back apart. Then we can do stroke and all that fun stuff. I like doing stroke. It's really great. In the beginning, I was amazed when I figured this out. When I figured out how to look at a cylinder, how to make it go up and down, and how to figure out where the piston's supposed to go. And that's called measuring the stroke. So really, it's no longer 80 cc's, it's bigger cc's. Okay, well, there is no 80 cc. An 80 cc is 69 cc's. But yes, if you do your math, we're moving this stroke. I'm taking it away. We're doing basically a 37 millimeter stroke at 49 millimeter bore. I'll figure it out for you in a sec. All I do is I go to CC calculator on your phone or on the internet. You just go CC calculator and it'll tell you that. It's called an engine displacement calculator. I like the pretty one, but this one will work. We go metric. We do our bore. Our bore is going to be 49 millimeters. Our stroke is going to be basically 37 point something, but we'll just call it 37 millimeter stroke. We want to do cubic inches. Okay, for engine displacement, we're doing 4.258 on that, but we want to do cc's instead of cubic. cc's, let's calculate the cc's on it because everybody knows cc's. On this cylinder, I'm calculating 69 cc's, the same thing as a China doll because I have a shorter stroke. And I'm measuring the stroke. A lot of China dolls lie and say, we have a 40 stroke, blah, blah. They don't. The piston's bigger. Yes. The piston's bigger, and it's a flat piston. And a flat piston and a flat head. So it's not a domed piston. But it will go, because of these transfers, it'll go twice as fast. With the right squishy cut, a little fill on the intake right there. Stop the crosstalk. Show you the crosstalk stop. Right here. I have a tiny little mound built up right here. Just stop the crosstalk on the top of the cylinder right there. We can't see it. Let's see. So there you go. You see that? That's my crosstalk stop right there, or a dam, an intake dam. So I'll go around. Let's see. Holy cow. My phone's blowing, or my. Okay, here we go. What's the longest drive you've taken on your bike for a ride to anyone? I do 10 miles, but I take my bike to the mountains or to a park. And when I'm the roughest is when I'm climbing mountains. I love climbing red rocks. I love climbing any of the hills. And with the China doll, it won't climb. There's people that jack shaft them and they make them climb, but they're always messing with the chains trying to keep them on. And I don't want to do a jack shaft until the chains are right. I say 10 miles is the longest one. I've sold a bunch of bikes to people that come over to my house and they pick up the bike and I'm like, where's your car and rack? And they're like, we don't have one. I'm like, how far are you going? And they tell me like 35 miles. And I'm like, where's your tools? They don't have tools. I'm like, you know, I'm like, it's a hobby. It's not transportation. Every 5 or 10 miles, you're going to have loose bolts. What's funny is when they ride these bikes home 35 miles, they'll be like missing pedals and everything after 35 miles because of the vibrations. I would say 10, you're pretty safe at 10 miles though. I do 10 miles all the time, 2 or 3 times a week. And I just check the bolts hopefully. The 38's been holding up real well. And I haven't really had a lot of bolts loosen up. I always jinx myself when I say that though. What tools must you have in your backpack? A 10 millimeter, a 14 millimeter, a 15 millimeter flathead screwdriver, your Allen wrenches that fit that thing, an extra chain, an extra master link, some bike tools to do your forks and all that if you don't have the same Allens on that. But that's about it. I carry the little wrenches. I carry this. I'm gonna throw. I throw a master link or something in my pocket with a couple of screwdrivers. This is a 1614, 1615. Has a 1718 and a 1413. But this is the one where you get to go on your license plate and all that. I just hang them on a hook, but they're made to go on your license plate. That's the tools I would say you want. The Allens, just the tools that you built the bike with, are the tools you kind of need to have with you. The guys that all they do is ride a China doll, they carry a backpack with everything in it. A spare tube, a pump, everything. I was like, holy cow, you're ready for Armageddon in your in your backpack. But yes, I do like at least some wrenches, and I do like at least some screwdrivers, especially when you're running a large carburetor and you have to adjust the air screw. That's what I like. Okay, well, let me find the Allen and we'll split it again and do this. Chuck. Allen I was looking for. I swept the floor. I was looking for that Woodruff key I lost the other day. So how was your day? Well, it's cool with the family. All right. Heck yeah, I like that. Grandson is 5, and he started kindergarten yesterday. Which is pretty dang cool. I'm just going to clean out the muck. A bunch of muck in here. You can blow it out with my hand. Air's nice. Okay, you saw me have a hard time breaking one of these apart. Did you see me use the table press to finally pop the crank out? I did that today too, as I broke out the big gun and popped out that last bearing. I hit it a bunch of times and it still didn't want to come out, so I put like a nickel or a dime here and push it out with the table press. But the one that was having a problem getting it out was on the crank side, so this one. What I want to do is I want to clean this up a little bit with just some steel wool, because it was so dang rough. The bearing hole was right here. This right here where the bearing sat, it was stuck and it was jamming the bearing onto the crank. There's supposed to be some leadways and tell you how much. Just try and track some of that down. Get in there now. I can't get that one. Looks like I got to go get some steel wool. I'll run in the house and grab an SOS pad. Yes, the table press will pop anything out or break the case, one or the other. I mean, when you put a 5-ton bottle jack on something, something's going to give. Hopefully, it's the bearing popping out. You sent me a picture of just all I got was a picture of this. I really wasn't sure what you were doing right there. What was you doing right there? I looked at it. I really couldn't figure out what was going on, though. You had the case split. I wasn't sure. It's 3 picks? What's bad with your case, dude? What's going on with that case, man? Just cleaning up the bearings, so hopefully it'll come together better. I like SKF bearings, drag bearings. And RBs aren't bad for China. If you live in China like Dread, you'd want RBs. RBs are Japanese. Oh, you lost your... Yeah, I've had that happen too. Check and see if they put zinc covers on your bearing crank. They don't supposed to have a zinc plate onto the crank side. You can put zinc onto the clutch side because it's going to spin a lot slower than the crank because it's geared down 4.1 to 1 or 8.1 to 1 or something like that. But yeah, I've spun bearings too, dude. Usually around 10,000 RPM if they put a zinc metal cover on it. They don't supposed to. They're only supposed to use the zinc on the crank if they're using zinc. But I got some ZL40 this summer, and they put metal crank, or they put a metal cover, and you're supposed to remove metal covers off of these. Never leave metal covers on the crank. You can leave them on the clutch, but never onto the crank. The crank's going to turn. It's going to be actually doing the 10K. Why does that happen? Heat. Metal is going to get a lot hotter in an aluminum engine, and That bearing is spinning faster than anything in the engine besides the gudgeon pin. The gudgeon pin could be spinning faster, but pretty much this bearing right here is going to be spinning pretty fast, meaning it's going to go like that every time. This one, every time it goes around, it's going to be spinning around too. So this is when it says 10,000 K or 10K, that's how fast this bearing is going to be turning. And if it's turning that fast and there's covers on these, which there shouldn't be, they're going to get too hot, and that's going to get dirt and crap in there and heat up, and then it breaks the little thing that holds all the bearings in place. And that's when it shoots bearings all over your case. What was great about me shooting bearings is I shot half the bearings out, and I still rode it home. I rode it like 5 miles home, and it sounded like a popcorn machine. It was pop, 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 with the bearings. It had, and I lost half my bearings on one of them, and I only had a few left. And I made it all the way on. In China Doll, you would never make it home with the bearings out, but it popped those things the whole way home. I could hear the bearings going crazy. In my case, I could hear them pop, pop, pop like popcorn. Yeah, I'm just widening out or making it a little smoother, so hopefully it'll pop on better than it came apart. I'm going to dry it and oil it and stick it back together. And this engine will be ready to drill and all that. I like to drill with the case or with the piston inside, so everything lines up perfect. The piston will hold you at bottom dead center. It will hold you in the correct place to drill. How old's your son, Will? My daughter is 25. 25. Okay. That's pretty good right there. Got it pretty cleaned out. It's pretty smooth all the way around. I think I can get the bearing back in. Sweet, go 3-in-1. Just gonna load a little 3-in-1 into the caddy or into the bearing slip. Want that nice and greased. A lot of people are like, put it in the freezer and all this stuff and do that. What I like is a nice greased one. Hopefully it'll pop right in for us. That'll be that. So I did slip it nice. Okay. I want to put the seal on now. I put the seal on this side right here that's got the lip. And you don't want to break these. Put it like that. So grease up this side too. There's some bearings. We'll see it spin. Grease, it's amazing stuff. Nope, I'm putting it in backwards. Good job, Brad. I was wondering why it's like, I was like, why the heck is that all like this and that? I was like, what the heck is going on here? I get it now, dudes. Like, why is the crank in the magneto case? Oh, I know why. Because it's wrong. That's the side that's going to be stiff, getting the bearing in. Right there. Now I want to set that on there. We'll put the case cover on. What I like to do is use the screws to pull it together. Why I like to pull the screws together, you're less likely to break the gasket. It really sucks when you break the gasket and you don't have a spare. You don't want to do that. And you don't want this to come along. Keep hitting my mouse button. So go way over there. Where's the lips over here? So we got to flip it over. Put it on the lip side down. Spin it around. That means I start with the two bolts with washers on them. I'm going to tap it a little more and use it. Gasket on the screw. That bearing was a real bitch to get on. That's what it is. Move it over here. Try not to break that seal. I'm begging for extras. Alicia. And goes there. This goes here. There you go. Stop right there and do not break your seal, or you'll be bummed. I know I am. Usually when I do it. Oh, bummed when I do it. Oh my gosh, darn it. Almost scared to pop out. Pokies. Start this one right here. Start this one. And what I'm trying to do is just get them all started without breaking the seal. The top one's the most problematic, I think. Also right around those 3 down there. I want to get all seals going at once. And I'll take a break right there since it's good breaking time. Any questions before I go, guys? Or Will? Or anybody? Happy building. Always, always, always. And I'll find the other screw and put that in there. Got 2 going this way. This is the part of the puzzle that once you get all the pieces in the right hole, it's like, I got all the pieces in the right hole. That's always good. I'm just pulling it slowly together. On the clutch side, work up the top side. I'll just use these 5 screws. Also, these 2 on the side help too. Here I can hear it. When you hear it pop, that means you should switch places. But that's how you do a case, guys. Inside, stick the crank back in. That's the crank. And all we have to do is these. Right? Peach cake, right? And if you watch your thing, you can see which side needs to be tightened more and all that. Here, pop. I'm almost ready to pull it tight all the way. I just got to find the other legs. And then pop the clutch in. And it's reassembled and ready to drill the new studs. And to measure the stroke. Tomorrow I'll go on stroke. Tonight I'm going to play wheel ball golf, so probably won't be much building. That's cool, Will. But hopefully I'll see you tomorrow, Will. On your case, you'll just bust it apart like that when you're putting it back together. Just cinch it slowly together. Don't like beat it with a hammer to put it together. Let the Allens or the screws pull it together. Let the screws pull it together. You want to watch your crack and make sure it's pulling it together nice and even all the way around. So you just want to rotate wherever you think it's thicker than the other side. That's when you want to do it. That baby's almost back together for reals. No rush. I could see them in China using impacts. Well, if you're only getting $50 a motor. And we'll be pressure testing it and water or fuel testing it. Make sure that it will hold fuel. Fuel consistency machine. Yada. Slowly working your case back together, guys. And that'll keep you from breaking the seals, hopefully. The seals break really easy. I always suggest buy extra seals or beg for extra gasket in between, because the first cases you do, you're probably going to break the seal, and then you're probably going to try and put it in anyway, even with the broken seal. Don't do it. And you can make your own seal, but that's a lot of work. It's just a lot easier just to order an extra one. Thanks for tuning in, Will. Thanks for the questions. I hope everything's good for you. Yeah, change those bearings out. SKF, RBs or FAG bearings. Those are all good bearings. And I will finish this engine, or I'll just save it for tomorrow for you guys. And then we'll be making a spacer, or reducing the size of the spacer to use with this crank. When you're pulling it together, you should always try your crank and make sure it's spinning and it's not pinched. Like a lot of times you'll get a bearing pinch and be like, man, I can't figure out why it's so rough. It's because you got a pinched bearing. Pinched bearing means that it's not perfectly flat up against the crank. But happy building. Please subscribe. Anybody else watching? I know I went long. I'm sorry, guys. But 50 minutes is long, but I'll try and keep the next show down. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you guys later, man.